in this review series. Today we're going to be looking at the Sensorites set, based on the episode of the same name, and the four-parter which came out in 1964, as you can see here on the box. This is a year where we had films such as Mary Poppins releasing, as well as horror films like Children of the Damned. Moving back onto the review, as we can see, these figures come in this lovely window-style packaging that is now very familiar to us, with that little window up top giving us a top-down view of the figures. And of course, the same image of the TARDIS on the front and the side. Just like the Keys of Mariner set, we get a lovely look at the three figures inside, as well as a synopsis for the episode, but sadly no synopsis for the behind the scenes, which is annoying. Moving on to the inside of the box, we get this lovely background diorama, which is meant to represent the spaceship from, I believe, the ending of the first episode and the first episode as a whole, with some really nice details being seen, such as this sort of scratching on the floor, which I believe would be common with sets back then. There's also these strange space lockers, which I believe them to be, as well as some computer controls that can be seen here. There's also this hallway here, which can be seen on the box, which I believe is taken from the ending of the first episode, which is akin to something from the Twilight Zone. Now let's move on to and take a look at the figures, starting with the First Doctor. Now this is a really lovely variant to finally have in my collection. This is something like what we saw in the 13 Doctors pack, which is considerably rare, so I'm very thankful to have picked up this one. There's also a couple of subtle differences to help it stand out from previous releases. Namely in the face, the sculpt is still the same, which is a-okay because it's William Hartnell, but there's some subtle paint apps like the eyebrows, which seem to have been done up with a grey, the eyes which have that sort of like more subtle pink around them, as well as the face which seems to be almost a lot less darker. The hair is also slightly different in the fact that it's not just a plain white and there's this lovely grey dry brushing over it, which helps the sculpt to stand out and makes it just feel a lot more lifelike in a weird way. Honestly, I prefer this over the original figure I have. The torso section now has a paint job, again which helps it to stand out from its original release, and is something that I really like about it. Where the shirt was white with these grey sort of tartar patterns, it's now an off-tone cream colour with some grey lines running up it, similar to how he looked in Season 3 of the classic series. His cravat is now a navy blue instead of the black as well, which is a nice little difference. However, the monocle thing has stayed the same, but that's not really a big deal. Moving on down to his legs, there's a very apparent difference here. In contrast to the original figure, these trousers are quite vibrant, with an orange terracotta colour being used and some sort of dark red, dark orange colour being used for the line scene throughout. The shoes share the same sculpt, with some minor paint differences to set them apart. This new figure very clearly illustrates the spats that William Hartnell wore as the Doctor, with this light brown and the dark brown showing the white and black parts that you usually see on a pair of spats shoes. And now we move on to the baddies, but not baddies of the set, the Sensorites. Just like with the Keys of Mariner set, these guys have reutilized the claws of Axos, Axon Man body, but again that's no big deal, it's just a bloke in a spandex suit again. But these characters are actually quite interesting in the fact that they're not the baddies for once in this story, it's the humans who are the bad guys. But anyway, story apart, let's take a look at the figures. Starting off with the head sculpt, it's really nice. There's some really nice little wrinkles that you can see there around the eyes and around the mouth, and with the lack of nose, which is of course a characteristic of this alien. Also the sculpting of the eyebrows and those weird beady little eyes that actually look quite creepy and kind of soulless. Moving down to the beard, there's some really nice details here that go hand in hand with the paint sculpt. There's these lovely sort of like wispy curls that have been sculpted on here, and the dark greys and light greys help to sort of really accentuate that and showcase that very well. There's also a neat trick on the neck where a fake collar has been sculpted, similar to what was done with the Vord. Another neat little thing is that there's a fake zip painted on the back, which can also be seen on the Elder Sensorite, but it's covered up a little bit by the ribbon thing. Both Sensorites also come equipped with their telepathic stethoscopes, with the sort of chain thing being just a simple silver line painted on the body. Now we move on to the new tooling, particularly these hands, which appear to be sort of latex gloves. And this is really nice, you can almost like sort of get that illusion that it's a bit cheap, but there's a human hand underneath. Now we move on to the feet, which, again, really shows that obscure 60s nature of Doctor Who. It's something that can be seen on the Elder Sensorite figure as well, but what I love here is that you can clearly see the actor's feet underneath the costume, and essentially it's glorified flares. However, this does also remind me of the scene in Terminator 2 where the T-1000 starts glitching and is unable to control his own form. But I digress. Anyway, the Sensorite Elder is pretty much the same as just Sensorite number 1, minus the fact that he wears this black ribbon band thing. This is the only way to tell these two apart, and that's actually how it is in the episode, and actually how it is in their society. which, considering that they all look the same, is a little bit strange, considering I feel like they could probably forget who each other are from time to time.
What's that supposed to mean?
Who am I?
The Sensorites also come with an accessory, the thing that they use to burn off the TARDIS lock. It's a simple sculpt painted in all silver, but it fits quite snugly into their hand. Now for articulation. The two Sensorites can rotate their feet 360 degrees, with all three figures being able to do a 90-degree bend at the knee, as well as do a 360-degree rotation at the calf. All three figures can do a 360-degree rotation at the body. Sadly, the Sensorites can only do this 90-degree rotation with their arm, with the 360-degree rotation thanks to that ball joint. All three figures can rotate their hands 360 degrees, with a 90-degree bend at the arm, and a 360-degree rotation at the forearm. It goes without saying that all three figures can, of course, rotate their arms like this, with all three figures being able to do a 360-degree rotation with their head. Surprisingly, all three figures can do this 90-degree rotation at the hip, with the First Doctor's jacket hindering this a little bit. But with that out of the way, that is this Doctor Who review done and dusted. This is quite a lovely set, especially if you're a fan of the 60s era of Doctor Who, or if you just want that First Doctor variant, which is quite nice, and pairs well with the Ian that they released previously. I would recommend picking this up, as you might be able to find this lingering around local B&Ms. But either way, that has been Terminator Plays, reviewing this Doctor Who set, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!